I was working from 6 in the morning till 6 at night as a co-anchor for the evening show. I was doing a morning show, noon show, evening show, and so when she got there, that was wonderful, and the fact that she was a delicious babe made it all the better. And
what do you mean was?
Is. Was and is. But I fell in love with her from the very first time I saw her.
You know them in front of the camera and at the microphone. On this edition of Long Story Short, my former TV news colleagues Kirk Matthews and Linda Coble reveal their personal story behind all the stories they've covered in their long careers.
Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox is Hawaii's first weekly television program produced and broadcast in high definition.
Aloha mai kako, I'm Leslie Wilcox. In this edition of Long Story Short, Linda Coble and Kirk Matthews are among the most recognizable couples in Hawaii due to their decades in local broadcast news. Linda is known as the first female TV reporter and anchor in Hawaii, and Kirk has been on Hawaii's airwaves longer than almost any other local TV newscaster working today. Kirk and Linda have a lot in common, beginning with a date in history, January 10th, 1947.
We were born on the same day in the same year, which may explain part of that. Linda, amazingly, has become 10 years younger than I am over time. But she was born on the East Coast, I was born on the West Coast, and we figured we were two little stars shot down from heaven, and we ended up together.
You know, people who've worked with you a long time, have been your friends for a long time, they often comment on how alike you are. How are you alike, would you say?
We are alike. You know, we don't argue. This is really weird. We never get mad at each other.
Oh no, you're not one to back down from an argument. It doesn't seem like you would seem like you would argue.
Never.
Really?
Really. I don't think we ever get mad at each other, ever. We agree on a lot of things. He is very flexible. I'm the one that's doing weird things at weird times. The fact that he goes to bed like a baby at 7:30 at night is a lot of fun in our relationship, but I don't complain. And he has to get up at 2:30 in the morning, and I don't mind him rolling out of the bed with the alarm blasting, "Bye-bye, honey," and then I have to go back to sleep, which is really easy. But we never argue.
It is now 5:25, almost 5:26 on this Wednesday morning Wall Street Edge.
It's an unnatural shift that you have.
It is odd. It is odd. You know that more than anybody.
And you never get used to it, and you're still doing it, Kirk, after how many years?
Gosh, I don't even know. How many has it been? 12, 13 years on this go-around? 12 years maybe? Off and on before
And
then.
I know that while Linda may go back to sleep at 2:30, she watches you on the air, because when you were on the air and I was on the air at the same time, she watched what we did. She knew what was on every stage of the game.
I think it's a responsibility of a partner to know what's going on. And then we're in the same profession, which makes it very easy. He can come home and talk to me about what happened during the day, and I understand it. If you were a lawyer, forget about it. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. You know what I mean? And I think that partnership in profession helps in the after work experience. I understand what he's saying. He understands and respects my feedback. So that's neat. So that's, of course, I watched.
So you claim you don't argue. Is there something you've agreed to disagree on where you just don't talk about it?
Yes, and it's exactly that. There are days when I send her a little note and say, when I get home, I know you will want to talk about this. We are not going to. I love you.
But do you ever talk about it then?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Of course we do.
He can't shut me up.
When you talk about firsts in broadcasting, you see Linda Coble's name locally, and I think you have some national firsts too. But people who watch TV news now and who hadn't before probably don't realize how rare it used to be to ever see a woman on TV.
When I graduated from the University of Oregon in Portland, ready to look for work, knocking on the door of every TV station in Portland, the fellow that the station where I ended up working at in Portland told me, come back when you've had more experience and a sex change operation. He actually said that. He would be fired today for having, said something that horrible, but it crushed me there really weren't that many women in television across the country. And when I got here to Hawaii and got a job as a newsroom secretary, the day they landed the man on the moon in 1969, Jim Mankey gave me the job over at Channel 4. I felt so proud to have been able to crack that one little curtain open.
Newsroom secretary.
Newsroom secretary. And then from then on, I was, taking Tim Tyndall's dirty suits to the cleaner and making sure the ties were hung up nicely in the film in those days. The film was swept off the floor and answering the phone. And it didn't take long for me to start doing stories and then anchoring. And that was, we were the first woman here anyway, and a few others around the country. And we made it into Newsweek magazine in 1971.
How did the men receive you in the newsroom?
Very well. I was so proud. What a team. Al Michaels was our sports guy.
Wow.
I mean, and Don Rockwell and Tom McWilliams and
Ken
Kashiwahara. I mean, I could go down the line of these wonderful journalists. Bart Frito, I used to peek over his shoulder in every story he had, but he never got hoo-hoo about it. It was okay, and I was learning every day.
Well, so then you work for Bob Seavey, who is on record saying, a woman works in this newsroom over my dead body.
He said, a woman doesn't have a credible voice.
Not authoritative enough.
Yeah. So I thought, well, and then he realized that we were spanking his butt, and he said, okay, I'd better get her over in our style.
When you say that, Linda, what you mean is?
Ratings were doing very well. That's what I mean.
So he wanted you as somebody who could attract an audience.
Yeah, exactly. And he was very, very gracious, and I worked my way up.
I knew Waikiki when this avenue was two ways, when you could still see the beach from here, when the jungle wasn't concrete.
The CB newsroom had 75% of the market watching. There was no cable out there, and the other stations had small audiences. So, I mean, everybody knew who Linda Coble was.
Linda Coble knew she wanted to be a reporter all along and majored in broadcast journalism. But Kirk Matthews originally planned to become a teacher, like his father.
I went to Oregon College of Education, it was called then, and I had every intention of becoming a teacher, but it was the turbulent 60s, and one thing led to another, and I ended up with just a general studies degree, major in English and minor in political science.
When you say one thing led to another, it wasn't
well, let me just put it this
long-haired
way.
protests and arrests, was it?
Yeah, I was, okay?
He had hair down to here.
I was a hippie guy.
Hippy dippy.
And then served my country. And then when that was done, like Linda went knocking on doors in Portland and said, here I am. They said, go to a small town and get some experience. And I did. I went to Coos Bay, Oregon, which isn't tiny, but there was a fellow there who had just bought a radio station and didn't know one thing about radio, and I knew just that much more because I'd worked at the college radio station in Portland. And so he and I just started in, and 6 months later I ended up back in Portland for public radio for a year, and had my own report on public radio, and then worked for public television for a year.
What did you do for public television?
We had a program on 4 nights a week, an hour-long program called Feedback. We thought that was pretty hot stuff back then. And it was hip. It was like 4 young Turks. We did everything, produced, directed, shot our own video, filmed, did live interviews, had call-ins, and we were just pretty radical for the day. This is 1970, I think, 71. And did that for a year. It was in black and white.
And were you climbing the ladder? Were you looking for the bigger market?
Well, that came along a little later. I got a job at the NBC affiliate in Portland for a couple, 3 years. And then, like every young person, you go, oh, what's next? San Fran, Seattle, Los Angeles. And I had a couple of offers, but nothing, really appealed. So this hung out in Portland, worked at different TV stations. But my fun time was at KOAP, Channel 10.
You told me your fun time was with me in Channel 9.
That was the most fun time.
Had Linda Coble stayed at KGMB, she might never have met Kirk Matthews. But in 1981, she moved back to Oregon, where she was raised, to spend some time with her family.
When I was working at KGMB, my dad died, and Bob Seavey, our boss, said there's a space at the CBS affiliate in Portland. They never had a woman anchor, so maybe you can go and do that. I'll hold your chair for you if you want, you know, and so he let me go. And this was 81, and there I went to Portland, walking through the parking lot to the TV station, you know, this hair blonde and tan, and, you know, co-ed looking, stumble into this parking lot ready to go up to the newsroom to have my interview. And this man with a tweed jacket and leather patches.
Kind of professorial?
Yeah, very. Smoking a pipe, leaning against the wall. And he said, "Are you from Hawaii? Are you the woman that's going upstairs?" I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "I just want you to know that the women reporters upstairs don't like you already. They wanted the job you're getting." And he said, "Your co-anchor makes X amount of money." He's going down the list. And I'm saying, "Why are you telling me all this?" And he said, "You're taking my job." And that's how I met Kirk. That was Kirk.
Wow!
In the parking lot.
How do you do?
Oh, God. And well, I can't say the punchline of that one.
No, you can't. No, not on PBS, not on any television station,
No.
as a matter of fact. On cable, you could say the punchline, but not here.
Well,
but
this one's on cable, too.
That's true. Well, we won't. The fact is that I fell in love with her the very first second I saw her. The very first second.
That was the way you made your impression on her, by scaring her? Or
I wasn't trying to scare her. I was telling her about the culture of the newsroom and what to expect,
You
and
know,
giving her a head start.
And why are you telling me all this? And because you're taking my job? I mean, that was shocking, but it wasn't the truth.
That was not
He
the
was
truth.
just
Fact
teasing.
was that I was holding the chair until she got there. I mean, I was working from 6 in the morning till 6 at night as a co-anchor for the evening show. I was doing a morning show, noon show, evening show, and so when she got there, that was wonderful, and the fact that she was a delicious babe made it all the better. And
What do you mean was?
Is. Was and is. But I fell in love with her from the very first time I saw her.
It took me a while.
Linda Coble and Kirk Matthews were newsroom colleagues at KOIN in Portland for about a year before they became a couple. But the romance did not help Linda get over her other love for the islands.
When I got so homesick for Hawaii, I mean, I would sit on the treadmill and listen to the Brothers Casimiro playing music on my headphones, and I'm sobbing. And finally I told CV, "I need to come back. Can I come back?" And he said, "Yeah, you can come back. And can I bring somebody?" "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, I'm in love. Can I bring Kirk?" Meaning, can he come to work as well? Mm-hmm.
She came over in April of '83. I came over in September, and every day I would drive her to work, and every day I would stick my head in the office of CV and say, "Got anything yet?" And he would say, "Are you still here?" And that went on for 6 weeks. In fact, for those 6 weeks, my main job was going down to Chunhoon Market and lifting 5-pound bags of hinode rice off the top shelf for little old ladies. They would tug on my sleeve and say, "Holly, ma'am, can you get hinode rice?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." Put down in the shopping cart like that. And I figured, good enough, I'll do it as long as I need to.
And I suppose you weren't going to be applying at other TV stations.
That was just out of the question. At that time, was out of the question. That was where I wanted to be. That's the girl I wanted to be with, and quite frankly, CV was the boss I wanted to work for. Then
He didn't trust any man with me.
Oh, that was it. It wasn't a professional deal. Did he have a job he could open up?
Yeah, eventually he started a reporter job at 10 o'clock news. They never had one. And so he started doing that.
Updated world stories via satellite. Linda Coble offers
Both of you were very influenced by Bob Seavey. How so? And were you influenced in the same ways?
probably me a little less so than Linda. I came to work there a little later in my career, and Linda had been under his mentorship for a lot longer. But he was a very big stickler for facts and fairness. If there's one side, there's got to be another side. And if there is, you better bring it.
We all used to sit in his office at the end of our day, and we wouldn't, run home and go eat. We stayed and watched our competition on a totem pole set of 3 TV sets.
While he was anchoring the news and your reports were on.
That's correct. We all sat in that room. We crowded in to see how we did, how that compared. And I think that was part of Bob's inspiration, to give us pride in what we did and to be really aware of what our competition was doing and see that that would make a difference in the quality of our airtime. That never happens now. People are just out the door the minute, the bell rings. And
there's 500 channels on, too.
That's right.
At the time you started in local television news, news was a loss leader. It was truly a public service. And lo and behold, the faces in the newsroom became the icons of the station, and the newsrooms became huge revenue generators. So the business changed. It became much more entertainment oriented. We're going to use this to attract a following. So you got to see that change. And I think it required different skills too.
Yep, it did. And if you didn't keep up with them, bye.
So both of you were good at keeping up with what was required over years in a changing, dynamic television news business.
Thank you. And it was really fun when I went to Perry and Price in '88 to be able to go and have a little bit more freedom to say what I wanted to say. With them, it was okay. But that was the first time, I can say 1988 was the first time I ever shared my own opinion on a public airway. And that was because I was with Mike and Larry and not with Stevie. And it was a different environment.
You've really gone different ways. You've stayed in the business as it's changed, sometimes gritting your teeth. And Linda's made forays back into it at times, but you've actually been very resolute in remaining a volunteer.
Yeah, I've been very lucky, and that's part of the joy of being a public figure. When you're on television, you can't help but have your face out there, and people recognize you, they trust you, and if you have followed through in your personal life as well as your professional life, then you are of value to an organization, and you can pick and choose, and it's been wonderful. Everything from the prevention of child abuse, Rotary and all the wonderful projects and things that they do, and family programs, Hawaii
But you didn't
foster
commodify
kids.
yourself. I mean, you're not the and nothing, I don't mean anything by this, but you chose not to represent a company or make money. You didn't trade in the
I haven't made a
public
cent.
recognition.
I haven't made a cent since I left. Only when there were pregnancies at the TV station would I be able to go in and work 3 months during their maternity leave. And then Kirk got tired of getting everybody pregnant. And so that was it. I'd go in and had a wonderful time. But that was the only money I've made since.
When in 1998 the last gig happened, we came to kind of a crossroads, and there was an opportunity for Linda to move up in the ranks of Rotary International, and it cut our income in half. There were 2 of us, and then there's 1, but we agreed that we could do that. And I want to say this in the nicest way possible. She would be my community service. She would do what both of us could do if we had the time and the resources. We only had some of the resources, so she gave her time. And I've never been sorry, not one single minute.
So what was it like breaking into the top ranks of the Rotary here?
Wonderful. What?
I was going to say, when we had to go to this international assembly, there's like 525 districts around the world, and with only 25 women, most of the district governors were men, which meant most of the spouses were women.
And then he'd have to go to breakout sessions and learn how to sculpt ice, make ice sculptures, and
50 ways to tie a scarf, things like that.
He was in this group. There were 25 men in that room of
And
550.
you attended those scarf sessions?
You bet.
Had to.
You bet. I sure did. I'll show you right now.
It's a partnership, If he had said, honey, we need the money, come on, I would say, okay, all right, I can do it. I could go down and welcome diners to Saggio or whatever I wanted to do. That's no problem. But that's not...
We came to this decision together.
To be able to take that image or reputation or faithfulness to the community into what you do outside of work, I think that's one of our biggest blessings. Don't you think that we can translate what respect we garnered over the years into service above self, away from making the money, but still being able to contribute? And with kids voting, for example, since 1995, we've been trying to teach the civic responsibility of voting for the kids. And just to see young people growing into that, I'm so proud. And the reason I can get into schools and help is because the teachers remembered me and they trust.
Well, you know, I know this since I've worked with them. I know that if a school will call up and say, we need somebody to help with our read aloud
Reading
program, Kirk will say, a school? Great.
I'll be there.
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Are they little people? Good. And I can read little people books. I do that well.
What's the hardest thing about being a volunteer?
All the time. I get so nervous. You know, I never used to be nervous. When you go into a newsroom, you don't know what to expect. You know, every day is different. You walk in and you're ready once you get set down and get an assignment and go, or think something up. In volunteer work, it never stops, and it builds in the nerve-wracking, oh God, I get fast-beating heart over responsibilities, so I think it's scary.
And now you would seem to be the higher-strung partner in this team relationship.
Why do you say that?
Well, no, but I wonder if that's true. I mean, is behind your
closed doors,
your serene countenance, is there a lot of type A action?
I'm not sure it'd be type A minus maybe. You and I have worked together for a long time. Have you ever seen me get really, really mad? Maybe once?
I think for you I have. I mean, but it's not, it's very, you have to say, well, that's Kirk style anger, because it's very gentlemanly. Yeah, you don't ever put people on the spot or make them feel bad.
Try not to. And she's not really high strung. She's blonde.
I think that might be some kind of law against that kind of remark.
no.
Sue me.
I was blonde.
In looking back, Linda Coble and Kirk Matthews both count parents among the most important influences in their lives.
My father walked out of the house when I was 5. He left. He had an alcohol problem, and he and Mom no longer decided they wanted to be with each other. So out he goes. I held the door.
Did you feel abandoned?
I didn't, because Mom never made it out that way. And she worked, and we had terrific babysitters. And after 7 or 8 years of that, she found someone else. And fortunately, they got married and happy and so on, and had a brother. So I really think my mom gave me the strength, and my sister as well, gave my sister the talent, the artistic talent, gave me the strength to weather things and storms, and yeah. And that stays with you forever.
Her mom was a go-getter, and she lived with us for a while in her later years. Georgia Lee, she was a heck of a gal.
Everybody has some part of the heredity in there that's forming them. And
So with you, your mom gave you resilience?
I think she did, and she gave me patience, and she taught me how to fight back.
What about you, Kirk? Who was your most influential person in your life?
Oh, the old man. He died real young, but he was a teacher and a coach. He liked small schools so that he could have a one-on-one with as many students as possible. But he was a straight shooter. He never lied, never beat up anybody. But he was tough. I mean, he was in World War II, the greatest generation, and swam around in the Pacific after a boat was shot out from under him for a while. He was a tough cookie, but he was funny as heck. Here's a good story. we had a track team at this tiny little school, and I liked pole vaulting because you didn't have to run very far, and the girls thought it was real glamorous, and so that was my event. And he said, that's fine, but everybody has to do at least a couple, so you'll run the 800, what was back then called the 880,
Right.
2 laps around the track. Didn't sound like a lot. So I would, jog every day, and so then the big meet comes, bang goes the gun, off these guys take like they're chasing somebody, and I'm the last guy, and I run trying to catch up, and my lungs are burning, and my legs are lead. Finally get around the 2 laps, and I manage to pass 2 other guys. I collapse in the infield, and he comes over, and he's laughing, big smile on his face. And he's looking down at me. I said, why are you laughing? I came in 5th. And he said, think about all the kids that didn't get to run today. That was pretty potent stuff, and I've always remembered that.
That's right. What's your hope for the future of journalism?
That Kirk keeps working for 2 more years. I hope that people calm down a bit and don't feel that they have to entertain me. I'm there to watch the news.
Just because it shows up on your smartphone doesn't make it true. So I think if I want to be entertained, I'll play the ukulele, I just kind of worry about the whole personality-driven part of journalism. And I see there's probably a place for it, but
There is a place for it.
Jack Webb used to say, just the facts, ma'am, just give me the facts. Information is not knowledge, and knowledge is not wisdom. You have to go through those
right.
different
hoops.
paths to get to wisdom. And I would hope that we can help society at large and individuals achieve some wisdom.
As I'm speaking now in early 2013, Kirk Matthews and Linda Coble have been married for nearly 29 years. Kirk continues to co-anchor the morning news on KHON2. Linda remains very active as a volunteer in Rotary and other charities, and she chairs Kids Voting Hawaii. For Long Story Short and PBS Hawaii, I'm Leslie Wilcox. Ahui ho kako.
For audio and written transcripts of this program and all episodes of Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox, visit pbshawaii.org.
One of the main questions I get, because this is Hawaii, is why I wear a coat and tie. And Joe Moore and I have had this conversation more than once. And we both agree that when you are invited into somebody's house, that as a sign of respect, you dress up, you dress the part. And that's what we do.